आप अपने आप पे ध्यान ही नहीं दे पा रहे हो because we don't have time, because of the lives that we are living in. What are the type of thoughts that you have? Do you feel fulfilled? Do you feel like, I've achieved everything? We are easily able to connect with anybody who we want. Like suddenly I keep questioning myself, make it work the way you want to make it work. Everything in this universe is energy. Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast Beyond the Peel, your journey to self transformation. So, last week I talked about setting healthy emotional boundaries. But, after I did that and after I heard that, I realized that unfortunately, women in this world are most prone to being in a state wherein they are unable to set healthy emotional boundaries. For a lot of reasons, I can say that because I am a woman and I know a lot of things that we as women face on everyday basis, right from the childhood up until adulthood and all of that. I understand that, and I've seen a lot of women who are unable to do it. Even after I've done a video and shared a couple of tips and tricks on how you can be a person who's emotionally healthy, understands how setting boundaries is really important. A lot of times women, especially, I have a soft corner for them, obviously, sorry men, but I think women are most prone to it. All right, there are lots of reasons behind that, but unfortunately it affects our mental health. It has a severe effect on the relationships that we are in because we've been told to compromise. So I do want to take a moment to talk about that, on how, if you don't understand this at this point, how you are already affected by it, how you are the one who has not been able to set emotional boundaries, and what impact is it having on you, knowingly or unknowingly. Some women would be like, yes, I know that, but I am not really willing to do anything about it. For many women watching this, they'll be like, oh, I didn't think it that way. So that's why I want to shed some light on that, and at the end, again, share a couple of tips from my Pandora's box and share it with you on how I, as an individual, I as a woman who is in her 30s, is able to cope up with situations like these. So if you're interested in that, do keep watching, lovely ladies. All right, let's get started. So first of all, why is that? Why do a lot of women struggle with not being able to communicate their thing, not being able to set those boundaries and be very assertive in their tone and say, look, you've got to stop? Why are we not able to do it? It's all to do with the conditioning. It's all to do with how you've been growing up. If you notice, a lot of women who are headstrong, a lot of women who basically are able to put their point like this, and everybody around them is like, oh my god, how did she do it? You will notice that the upbringing that they faced when they were growing up would be very, very different from the one who's in this state. All right, so it all goes back to your upbringing and how you have been conditioned, all these societal norms that have been put through. I remember even till today, a lot of older women and older people, older men as well, in families and in our workplace, everywhere, we've been told that you've got to adjust. Like, it's okay if you don't like someone, you have to be with them. If you don't like a relative, especially after marriage, I hope my husband doesn't listen to this. If you don't like a relative, as a woman, it's your duty to keep up with them. Like, men are okay. For example, in my marriage case, I'm not making this like a marriage sort of a podcast, but since this example relates to that, we both don't like a couple of our relatives because our personalities do not match. But a lot of times I am being told that I, being a woman, it's my responsibility to make sure relationships are intact, whereas my husband can easily say and get away with it by saying, I don't want to talk to anyone, and there is no judgment on them. It'll be like men can say that, but women cannot say that. That's one example. So that's how our society operates. That's how we've heard till now. Even I'm hearing till today. I'm 35 and I'm still hearing it. That's how we've been hearing all of these things. A lot of times it comes down to the culture that you're in. In Hinduism especially, not saying it's bad or anything, but a lot of times women are expected to do certain things in order to please other people and family members and stuff like that. So that's how we have seen growing up. We are often told to prioritize other people's emotions and feelings over our. But that person said you something, it's okay, just let it go. You're a woman, how, you know, you don't need to take it to heart, it's okay, it happens. Whereas if the same thing was told to a man, they would be like shouting and growling and everything, and that's okay, he is just having an emotional outburst. Whereas if it's the same situation with you, you would be told to just keep mum, right? I hope women who are listening to this can really relate to it, because it happens on an everyday basis. It's not something that has happened in your childhood and now it doesn't. It happens till date, wherein you are expected to hide your emotions. You are told to not prioritize your emotions because other person's emotions are more important than yours. Because of this, there is a lot of heightened sense of emotional responsibility. All the burden is on my shoulders to make sure that the sanity of this home is intact, that this home is a happy place to in. All of that emotions, I have to carry it on my shoulders. You know, I can literally feel that burden while I'm talking to it. You know, if anybody's mood is off, you know, just push it under the carpet and it's okay. Just forget how you're feeling about the situation. Don't say anything. Just, you know, learn to accept it. And hence what happens is that we pile up all of these emotions in ourselves, and there is an emotional burnout at some point. And then some days we will literally burst ki what has happened, and then you know what we will hear, that you never had a problem before, now what's wrong with you, right? So I hope women can really relate to how emotional boundaries is not meant for women. That is what society is conditioned to. That is what we've been hearing since our childhood. Now, it has an impact on our mental health and on our relationships. First, I'm going to talk about how it impacts your mental health. So this podcast, more than me providing you tips and tricks on how you can cope up with it, I am going to shed light and I'm going to spread awareness of what impact is it having on you if you don't already realize that. I'm sorry, but most of the podcast, 70% of this episode is going to be focused on awareness and 30% is going to be focused on how you can come out of it. Okay, now let's see how it has impacted your mental health. Now, research has shown that women are most likely to experience anxiety and depression, which is all due to unmanaged emotional attachment, because we've been told that suppress your emotions, suppress whatever you're feeling, it doesn't matter, your point of view doesn't matter, you know, you've got to confine by the rules, because of which there is a burnout, because of which you eventually might get in the state of depression and anxiety. You know, let's even think about women, older women who currently might be in their 50s or 60s. How have they lived? Now, our generation is sort of blessed that we've still been able to communicate. I am using this as a medium to communicate. But for women in that age group, when they were growing up, when they were married, even before marriage in their own homes, you very often hear these things from those women only. I'm not saying men are the one who are saying these things. It's the women in their 50s and 60s who are saying all of these things, because that's what they have done themselves. That they have basically been suppressing all their emotions. They are the ones who are saying that it's okay and just learn to adjust. They are the ones saying, don't worry, make sure the man in the house is happy. Make sure that the environment of the home is happy. Don't worry, you have got to adjust. You are the one who's going to maintain peace in the house. So you see how much burden a woman is carrying, and what happens is, at some point, nowadays we've started talking about anxiety and depression. That time they didn't even knew that these things existed. But if you start scratching the surface, go and talk to someone who's in their 50s or 60s and go and talk to them on how did they feel about a certain situation, how did they, did they ever express those emotions, and you will realize that they never did. They were also in the state of anxiety, they also were in a state of depression, but they were just not even able to say that they were not even able to express that they are emotionally burnt out, right? So that is how much of an effect it has on mental health. So if you keep suppressing one thing, what will happen? अपने इमोशंस को भी अभी साइड पे रखो. कोई फिजिकल चीज ले लो, टेक अ फिजिकल ऑब्जेक्ट. इफ यू कीप सप्रेसिंग इट एंड प्रेसिंग इट, and what will happen? It will break at some point. Women in the older times, they never broke also. You can imagine the plight of that. Nowadays, at least we are speaking about it. We have a lot of communities wherein we understand the steps that we can take to get out of it and stuff like that. And luckily, nowadays, even men have come to understand that emotional needs of a woman needs to be met as well. We are in a very, very good place as compared to older men. Because now when I compare my own husband with the men of, my father's age and stuff like that, there is a huge gap. I mean, how did the women of that time even survive? I just think that. So in short, there was a lot of effect on the mental health as well. There was a lot of pressure to fulfill multiple roles. Caregiver, like many people, I think now I won't want to get into the discussion of how important a homemaker is and how undervalued a homemaker is, to be honest. Because nowadays we are earning as well as taking care of home, and we understand how tough both of these jobs are. But that, there is a lot of pressure to fulfill multiple role lives. Like, we are the ones who have to take care of all the children's needs. We are the ones now, in our cases, also are the ones who are earning for the family because we want to live a good lifestyle, but at the same time not compromise anything about the home situation, right? So you realize how much all of this has had a toll on women's mental health. Now, how has this affected our relationships? Now, since we are conditioned in a way that other man's emotional needs are more important than yours, tum chup reh lo to keep the peace of the house. We are not able to speak up to our partners for the things that we want to. Again, I'm saying this was a couple of years back. Now, percentage of women who are in this situation is there, but it's relatively less. Nowadays, many women understand that they have full rights to speak up and they're able to communicate all of that, but a lot of women still are struggling with being able to do that in your relationship with your partner as well. As I said, now even the men have grown up. So nowadays, a lot of times, because of all of that burden, because of maintaining peace for the family, because that burden falls on women, they find it really hard to communicate with their partner on what they are feeling, because they'll be like, oh, if I say this, he will get mad or he will get angry, the environment of the house is going to get disturbed, and I don't want to do that, because of which they are not able to communicate, right? So there is clearly an imbalance. What you feel and what you're communicated, there's clearly an imbalance between between two partners, because of which there is a lot of resentment in them कि आप अपने से अंदर इतनी सारी बातें रख लेते हो, you're not able to say these, but you know that you're feeling all of these. There is frustration, there is a feeling of codependency. Ultimately, it's basically jeopardizing the longevity of this relationship, right? So it's really, really important that if you are a woman who is currently in this state wherein you are unable to express yourself, you are unable to communicate your own well-being to any other person in your family, especially your partner, it's not a good place to be in, girls. Please, it's really, really important that we set those emotional boundaries with ourselves. It's important that first we learn to accept, respect ourselves, and we communicate the same to others, because it's having a very negative impact on your mental health, on your physical health, on your relationship, and every area of your life. So that is why a couple of things I do want to share with you on how you can do that. First of all, as I shared in my previous podcast, do listen to that as well. That was a generic one wherein I've shared that if you want to make sure you are being respected, make sure that your emotional health is of equal importance in your house, in your workplace. You've got to accept your emotions and be willing to communicate that these are important in an assertive tone. So that self-care mode ko on kar lo. It's very important. You are the number one priority. You're not selfish. I've done a video about this as well. Many women feel I'm not selfish like you, Rubab. But it's not an act of selfishness. Self-care is about you. Selfishness is about thinking bad about others, but you're not thinking bad about others. It's not, okay, I can't get the word. It's not like if you are loving yourself, you are not loving the other person, or you're disrespecting other person. So get that self love mode on. Seek support from your friends and family. Learn to speak up. It's really, really important that you learn to speak up, because if you don't, you are suppressing all of these things, and it's having a very negative impact on your health. And if in some cases it's reached to the extreme, do not hesitate seeking professional help as well, because I cannot emphasize how your emotional health is your problem to tackle, and you have got to deal with this. If you think you are in a relationship, not necessarily a romantic relationship, not necessarily your partner, but any person in your life who is toxic, trust your gut instinct, because I know women, I am a woman, I know I trust my gut instinct. You got to trust your gut instinct. We are all incredibly resilient. We know we can do it. It's just how we are conditioned from the beginning. We have got into beta mode. We are not alpha women nowadays, but turn on that alpha mode in yourself. I know you can do it because I did it. I know a lot of women who are quite resilient, and they know how to set emotional boundaries. They know that other people have got to respect you for who you are. So get that mode on. It's really important. Prioritize yourself, love yourself, because no one else is going to do it. How much ever your partner loves you, he is not going to love the whole version of you. That's your responsibility. To the person who's watching it, please, please, please prioritize it. All right, by acknowledging all of these unique challenges you face, don't think that you are the only one whose situation is like this. There are a lot of other women in the similar situation who do not know how to tackle their emotions and are suppressing it. But acknowledge that yes, these are there for a purpose. Learn how to tackle and get over with it, and take those proactive steps for your own well-being of your emotional state, right? I hope I am able to shed some light on why it's really important to prioritize yourself. What impact is it having on you if you are in this category? I hope there are very less women in this category. But if you are in this category who is suppressing emotions just to keep peace, please don't do that. You don't need to do that. Learn to speak up for yourself, because if you don't, no one else is. Okay, so do let me know via comments. I am found on multiple social media channels as well if you want to speak with me otherwise. But this was like, I feel really relieved talking about it. I think I want to empower women to be able to focus on their self transformation, because it's so important. All right, I am on this journey, and obviously I have a soft comment for women. So it's really important, girls out there. All right, so I'm going to see you all next week with another interesting topic. Bye bye.